And I'm here today to kind of talk about microcopy, which the language of user interfaces, which seems really important to this crowd. Whether you're an engineer or a product manager or a designer, invariably we're all called upon to, at some point, figure out what small little chunk of text is going to be useful to the people who are using this. And I'm talking about either our own associates or using applications we develop for ourselves, or if this is external, we're talking to our members or members' family. It's just kind of how do we make sure that the language we're using is clear, understandable. I'm not an expert on this. I just kind of really started to gain a lot of interest in it when I came to Humana and suddenly had to start writing copy. I came from an agency kind of background, so advertising always could rely on copywriters to kind of do this for me. I had experts who went to school for English who, or at least knew how to write really well, and so while I helped manage the content and understand, like, this doesn't really work here, this is better, I could always kind of rely on them to kind of finesse that last little bit to make it make sense. Here, I think in Humana, especially on the IT side, we don't have that discipline. Inherently built in, some people might be better at writing language than others. But for me, it's kind of like I really started looking at it and understanding how you could either say something really clearly or not so much. So what I want to do today is just kind of go through kind of almost like a primer on microcopy and how we can kind of some best cases, how it's used, best practices, I think really kind of what it is. Short little quote here from Christopher Murphy and Nicholas Person is the craft of words at a micro level, considering how words can satisfy a functional requirement by aiding and improving design interactions, enhancing interfaces for both functional delight and helping a user on their journey. And this kind of speaks really to everything we all might do. You know, there's this functional requirement we all have to get through. People have to get from A to B within an interface we've designed. We want the design to look and function really well. We want it to be pleasing to people. And pleasing isn't just visual, it's also like the tone, the way it kind of speaks to people. And we want to, hopefully there's delight within there, but always we should help that user on their journey. User is always a term we use, but let's really, user is a person. And you can kind of see the cute little way that this might kind of be worked here, an example. This isn't microcopy, by the way, really small copy. This is, and this is MailChimp. This is an account creation screen for them. MailChimp is like really gold standard for UX design. Not only are they really smart about their design practice, but they understand how important language is within that. And they have a really kind of like high standard that they kind of practice to a lot of, I guess, research and a lot of years of kind of experience trying to get this right. And so, this kind of shows this is more microcopy. This is some error messages when I try to create an account and they're kind of giving me feedback. So what this should always kind of do, good microcopy within this, it's kind of like aid people in understanding exactly what it is they're doing and how you can help them along. So, whether it's the headline, it's calls to action, it's error messages, it's telling me what I need to do next or what I did right, what I didn't do wrong. It's all these kind of examples of just small little bits of copy that kind of help people kind of do what they need to do. So invariably, that's an example of it, but what is it? Like, what are 5 qualities that you might kind of assign to microcopy? One of them is generally really short. It should be really succinct. You shouldn't have to write out a long paragraph for someone to understand it. If you've written out a long paragraph to get somebody through what you're trying to get them, you need to go back to your design. Your design is flawed somewhere. The process is flawed because it should be, if not intuitive, at least easy to explain in a short statement. It's contextual. When I say contextual, there's different ways people use interfaces. You're going to have a different tone of voice for someone who is, filling out, signing up for a music sharing service versus someone who is filing a claim after a car accident. You're not going to be flippant. You can be flippant when they're doing music sharing. You can be funny. You can really show your personality. When they're doing something like they just lost their car, it's a traumatic event, you want to be contextual. You want to make sure you're in their frame of mind when they're doing this. It's instructive. Kind of clearly tells them what they need to do at this point. Here's the next step, or here's what you did wrong. Let me help you through this. And it's understandable. It's clear. It's plain language. It's not a lot of jargon or terminology that we would use. There's not like some JSON file mismatch. It's like, I don't know what that is. You need to make sure people understand exactly what you're saying to them. And it's human. The whole word interface, there's something that's going between the person who created this and the person who's using it. And what you want to do is try and make sure that the person using it understands there's a human behind, and vice versa. We have to make sure we understand that this is, we're talking to a person and helping them complete a path, take care of a task, whatever they're trying to do. Because without it, you really wouldn't know what to do. Touch ID without some little bit of copy, telling you lift your finger, put it back, lift your finger, put it back. You're just kind of left with this little symbol, like, how do I use this? Touch ID, the setup would be a much less seamless kind of experience. The technology is awesome, but you still have to kind of explain how people use it. So Microcopy kind of got its first kind of coined back in 2009 by a guy, Joshua Porter. And what he did, he was working on an e-commerce site, and part of the checkout process was people entering their billing information. And he had coded the site in such a way that he would be notified if there's any errors along the way. And he kept getting this error that people were abandoning the shopping cart at this critical step, and he was just like, what's going on? Why is this happening? And so what he discovered was people were, when they were entering all this card information, security code, first name, address, they weren't matching up the address with the billing address. They were entering either their mailing address, their home address, not necessarily their billing address. So he kept getting this error, kept getting kicked out. That's a problem. It's a conversion issue. You're not selling your product. Suddenly he just entered this one little bit of copy. Be sure to enter the billing address associated with your credit card. Errors went away. It seems like really intuitive, but until you actually can see it happen or notice that it's happening, suddenly he's just like, wow, I'm converting, we're selling products. And so he's just like, had this epiphany, the fastest way to improve your interface is to improve your copyright. So why is this important? I think I'm starting to build a little bit of a case here, but keep users engaged. I know this is kind of blown out. You'll see this in a lot of checkout, this ability, someone's shopping, add something to their cart, and then if they even go to checkout, they continue as a guest. They continue to shop, and there's a little bit of copy, sorry you can't read it. It just tells them, like, you continue to shop, you can either create an account at the end, or you just continue as a guest, but it just lets people know so they're just not like, oh, I gotta create this like massive registration process, I really don't want to do that, I'll just come back to this later. So let people know what the process entails. It builds trust, like say this, like signing up for an email. It kind of lets, this is a good little example because it tells you, for one thing, it kind of builds the case. There's already almost 73,000 people who like this. You're going to get an article twice a week, and there's no sales pitch, no games, and one click unsubscribe. So you kind of build this trust that here's what I'm signing up for. I understand exactly what you're going to send me and how easily I can get out of it. And I'll show you some examples of really bad unsubscribes a little bit later. It makes interactions feel human, not human. This is, I'm not sure if this is Charlotte, I don't know where this example is from, but you can kind of see as you enter that first name, there's just a little bit like Paula. You have such a pretty name. I mean, this is like really simple thing to do. Contextually, probably wouldn't do this if you were signing up, like I said, after a car wreck or something a little bit more life-changing, serious. But in this instance, kind of just, it's just a little bit object of delight here. And then last, it provides a voice to the brand. And I bring up this example because when the first time I ever got on my Humana app and it has that load screen and it says, like confirming coverage confirmed, building your experience. It does a good job of kind of setting the stage for what I'm going to experience here. It's really simple, it's short, but it kind of like almost creates a certain place in my mind, or anybody who's used something about what, it kind of takes it from being this very transactional to like, here, I'm going to present you with this information, and hopefully it is a little bit more of an experience versus just an interface. So when it's good, it anticipates what questions that a user might have about a task. It also requires minimum effort to comprehend. It accounts for the context of the user, as we've talked about, and it sets the tone for your brand. Brand, when I say brand here a lot, this is generally like a marketing kind of term, but it's still, software applications still have a brand. There's still something, you still want to, when you build something, you still want people to have some sense of that it's taken them into content. And I've seen, we've all seen different pieces of software that do not do that at all. It's just very transactional, it doesn't help you along. And this is pulled up if anybody's ever gone to Airbnb or you book a room and you send a message to your host. This is kind of what they present you. This easily could have just been like enter comments here. What they do is kind of, you're trying to reach out to this host. You're trying to build a relationship with someone whose home you're going to rent. And they actually kind of, brief you before, like, tell Pamela about yourself. Why are you coming to Toronto? Who's joining you? What do you love about this listing? They help you along to kind of fill out this thing. It could be short, it could be long. But once again, it's just that little bit of copy that kind of explains to you how you might use this little particular piece of interface. It's currently 11 p.m. in Toronto. I've been mulling that over, trying to figure out why they put that in there. Unless they think it's going to ping somebody at some certain point, or just give you some sense of like, it's this time where you are, and it's 11 p.m. in Toronto. But Airbnb does a great job of microcopy. When it's bad, it lacks clarity at critical junctures. You are at kind of a pivotal point in your application or your website, and things aren't clear about what I'm supposed to do. You stand a good chance of people abandoning, what it is, or they're getting frustrated, or confused, and it starts to build this negative perception of your brand, and it makes people feel disregarded. Like you didn't think about how I was going to use your interface. You really don't, have much interest in my experience. You're just trying to get your job done. And this is kind of an example here, and everybody gets these pop-ups on your website. As you begin to exit, you get this exit pop-up. And for all practical purposes, all the copy is really great until you decide you don't want it. It says, no, thanks, I don't like to get more customers. Which makes me not want to ever talk to David Brown. Because I'm just like, why are you being passive aggressive? I just don't want to look at this information right now. It doesn't have to be like that. So where do you find this? You find it everywhere. Error states, confirmation screens, logins, registrations, etc. So I'll show you a couple examples here. Error state, this is from Twitter, maybe a little bit old. There's an error posting your message. The validation of media IDS is failed. I'm not sure what that is. Did I make a mistake? Is there something wrong with what you all did? It's not really clear. Am I supposed to click? What about click support? What does that take me to? It's just very confusing from not understanding exactly what happened. This is an example from material. I'm sorry, this is really kind of low resolution. And I say this is not so good because at least it kind of gives you context of something happened in your payment method. Try again, there was an error with your information. Please enter the name on your credit card, a valid card number. That's great, you know, I understand, but unfortunately I have to dismiss this and then go back to the screen and try to remember exactly what I did wrong. A better example is what you see in material all the time, which is they get it, it's contextual, right? It's not just a valid card number, it's a 16-digit number. And then it can't be blank. So once again, they're throwing it into context, they're making sure you understand what you did wrong and how you can kind of complete this task. Confirmation screen is not so good. Do you really want to cancel a reservation? Yes, cancel. So is cancel it, or just cancel it? I'm a little bit confused about which one of those does what. Versus an example like this. Are you sure? Do you really want to delete the records? This process cannot be undone. And it's delete. So this is a really good, this is design and copy coming together and playing really well because it's there's a big X, something's going to happen. Red tells me this is destructive action, and it's very clear. I'm going to delete this. You know, it's telling you what's going to happen, and this is just painful for Microsoft. It's asking me you need to choose the default setting for help. You want to view online help on the internet or local help content that is stored on your computer. I can manage my help settings, or I can go to this link. I guess I'm supposed to remember that. And then, do you help content on the internet? I would think yes would be the primary thing they want me to do, but for some reason it's highlighted as no. So this thing just has a lot of really bad issues. And then proceeding with the operation delete will erase the contents of your hard drive. Do you want to wish to do proceed or delete? You're like, oh man, I'm hard drive's toast here. Okay, so this is search. This is actually currently from Politico, and this is perfectly valid. Enter search term. That's great. I know how to use that. It's not unclear to me. Yelp is like, no. Here's all the ways you can use our search. I always think of Yelp just primarily restaurants, but they're like, no, you can look up burgers, barbers, spas, handyman, and I could even I would just think, oh, it's like Louisville, Kentucky. They're like, no, you can be very specific. You can say Digital Experience Center, Louisville, Kentucky. So Yelp does a really good job of kind of like using a little bit of copy, and then it's like 5 words that kind of tell you, here's the functionality of this interface element, here's how you can use it. This is like for registrations, and you're going to see registrations all the time. And this is, like I said, fine. Email password submitted versus email password sign up. Very small distinction here, but at least lets me know when I click this, I'm signing up. I'm not submitting and then something else is going to happen. It kind of just explains it a little bit better. And then this is like really beautiful. This is from Stash Invest. I encourage you to go to it. It's like micro investing. It's like $10 or something. But their sign-up form is fantastic because it actually has a progress indicator at the top. The language they use is really human. Talks to you, kind of tells you what's going to go on. Tells you why you want to use it. And, simple forms here. And once you enter, it's like, great, what's your name? And so this is key. They're like, we need your legal name to verify your identity. So no nicknames, sadly, even if they're really cool. Once again, they can have the tone matches up with the brand and what you're doing here. And then they're telling you, this is really important, like why they want this information, because even here they go like, do you own your home? And they're like, the reason I need to know this is we ask this so we can give you a more personalized experience. Even then it's like, yes, I own a home, no, I'm a renter. I have a different living situation. Start taking into context, everybody who might be coming to the site. You could be living in your mom's basement and they still want you to be, use their service. Empty states. So empty states are really, really kind of important. They're just kind of like first use states. User clear fields, 404s. And they could be the result of a task completion or a lack of content for a specific state. Now, I found this to be the case. Developers usually are more aware of empty states than designers are, because when they're building it, they're like, what happens here? You're like, I don't know, I didn't think about that. But they're really important because they can boost engagement, build consent, they can educate people. And so I think these are really sad. This is like conversations, like no conversation with Mozilla yet, or this, I'm not even sure what this is, but there's like no posts. What's better is to give people like, here's an empty state, at least tells me, here's what you need to do. Give me a name. This is from Paper from Dropbox, which is one of my favorite online applications. Please give me the name and please write something brilliant. And if you go and use Paper Dropbox, if you keep refreshing every time they just give you a new one, they built up this library of like really, I think that yesterday was like, you can't do that, Dave. It was like the first one that kind of popped up. And then these are just like really nice. Once again, Airbnb. This is empty state. You don't have any trips planned, which could be sad. Like, you don't have any trips planned. You're not doing anything. Whereas they're like, start exploring. So you don't have anything here, but I'm going to tell you where to go next, so you can actually fulfill this. Or like the Dropbox again with photos. Like, you don't have any photos, but let's go ahead and choose some and upload them. We'll kind of walk you through that process. And this too, which is like more of a dashboard, which basically is telling them all your metrics are up to date. Awesome, yay. I mean, you want to give people like praise, like you've completed this task, you're ready to go. So they tell you, like, awesome, perhaps you should look at our library and see if there's anything else you should be tracking. And then they actually give you a link to kind of tell you where to go. And this is a fun one. This is cancellations. Tunnel Bear. Yeah, Tunnel Bear is awesome. I use it as a VPN, but when you unsubscribe, there's suddenly like this friend like totally guilts you all the time. They're like, I thought we were friends. You're like, this a service. I mean, when I say service, I know there's people behind the service, but in the sense, you're a software application. And it gets worse than this. Actually, sign up and then unsubscribe, and you'll see it. And this is actually what I got from Best Buy the other day when I unsubscribed from their email list. We're sorry you decided to stop receiving valuable information. Which to me, I'm like, I decided your information wasn't valuable. That's why I unsubscribed. So this whole like guilt, like, why are you doing this? It's just really bad form. It doesn't engender people having a lot of affinity for your brand. When you're like, nobody likes somebody who guilts them all the time. So as opposed to Audible, when you unsubscribe, remember, shipment's been canceled and confirmation email's been sent, but don't worry, we'll leave a live one, just in case you ever change your mind. Nope, I may come back to Audible. It seems very seamless, right? And they, obviously a lot of this is built into the application, into the process. But specifically what they're doing here is just explaining to you very succinctly and helping you kind of make it through. So the last part here is just kind of some best practices, which we've kind of covered. But a lot of it's just like keep it short. This is for Deliveroo. You try to get, I guess, some food delivery. Sorry, we don't deliver there. Empty state. What do? They at least give you something you can vote for their area. Vote for your area to hopefully get Deliveroo to start working here. And they even tell you we're quickly expanding, so please do check back soon. Keep it in context. This is Tumblr. When you sign up for an account, it's really easy. You need an email, password, and then usually you have to kind of start a username, right? Which sometimes you're like, do I use this one or use this one? They go ahead and just kind of like pre-populate a bunch for you and actually throw one in right for you. And they also tell you you can always change it later. So you can step back out of this. They make it simple. I mean, this is like a 30-second sign up. No friction at all. Evernote, keep it instructive, and they basically say if you sign up for this Evernote Premium, here is the exact, without this huge legalese, we can explain to you really quickly what signing up for Evernote Premium means. and you can cancel it anytime. Once again, just really clearly communicating the terms of engagement with everyone. Keep it clear and understandable. We've all seen this in some form. Location services, it just allows you to, tells you exactly what that means. Tells you how it's used, and then they actually give you an explanation of it. Another example isn't necessarily, it's not software for a website, but it's that feedback at critical junctures. You hit this sign, you will hit that bridge. And you can totally apply this principle to software. You got plenty of, not maybe a ton of time, but they're forewarning you. If you do this, here's what's going to happen. There's a feedback loop. You're going to hear your truck hit the sign, and then when you hit the bridge, I don't know what else I can have done to kind of help you along. This is kind of like this idea of like critical, or feedback at these critical junctions. Keep it human. This is like a network problem, as opposed to getting people, angry, frustrated. Hopefully you can kind of dissipate some of that by using language, even that side, okay, as your confirmation as opposed to, okay. And as we always preach here, test. Talk to people. Big part about writing good microcopy is understanding how the people who use your software talk. So when you user test, you should actually listen, not to just what they say, but how they say it. What are the words they use? Because that's really important for kind of understanding how, once they're using your application, you can talk back to them. These are some examples from Target and Victoria's Secret. So a lot of people have trouble, there's a lot of distrust with sharing your information with online entities. And so this Bainbridge Institute did this test on e-commerce sites, and when they request your phone number, and a lot of people had a lot of issues like, why do you need my phone number? I don't want to share my phone number. They've saw this over and over. And then once you begin to explain, like, we need your phone number in case we need to contact you about your order or for shipping related questions, people are like, oh, okay, you can have it, because I want that thing, right? Just tell me why you want this information. Explain it to me very short and very quickly, and I'll be happy to pass it along to you. Oscar Health, I know Oscar's been in the news a lot, just got a huge investment. They're really good just to kind of go and like do this like individual like sign up and just kind of see the way they kind of talk to people, the way the language they use for this, what is generally, we work in a highly regulated environment. You do have to do like a New York area code, because it doesn't work here. But you can at least see the way they utilize microcopy to kind of get people through this process, this early sign up to at least get a quote. And I'll leave you with this one. The user interface is like a joke. If you have to explain it, it's not that good. It just goes back. It's got to be short, understandable. If you have to explain it at any length, it's not a good joke. It's not a good interface. You need to go back, look at your design, look at your process, test, and try to figure out how you can make it better. And that is it. Any questions? Now, like I said, I'm not an expert. So, yeah.
So I struggle all the time trying to find the right words to put on buttons to do things that are short enough, not overrunning the size of the button compared with all of the other words. And I'll go back and forth on that again and again, just trying to find just those right words. Do you have any resources or methods that you use to kind of get down to those?
I mean, I think a lot of that comes, in fact, I can absolutely have empathy for you, yes, because it is kind of hard to kind of get that really succinct message, especially on the button. There is a ton of like I said, I found a lot of research online, just kind of reading. I think a lot of it comes down to testing, going through a lot of iterations, which you probably do, to just figure out like what communicates it the best, or is there supporting copy above the button that makes it clear, so you can't keep those shorter buttons, but you have some copy that maybe explains. Yeah.
So whatever we saw today was mainly guiding user navigation,
some of it would be like, we're big proponents, obviously, of user testing, making sure that, like doing usability tests to make sure that people understand. With it, it's kind of going back to that example from Joshua Porter where he wrote the code, that kind of like error code that allowed him to see when people basically dropped off from the process. So some of that is, I guess, inherent in the way you kind of like code it, so you can kind of know if people have issues. You kind of see when the fall off happens. I know we deal with some really complex software applications here that have lots of different inputs, multiple tabs, probably a lot harder. A lot of times it's just easy. I guess with us, it's just like following one user flow and seeing at what point in that user flow does the confusion happen, does the frustration happen. I guess would be my best piece of advice. Yeah. Anybody else? Like I said, my thing for you would be like what I started doing once I started is pay attention to, especially the applications you use, the software, the websites you use, and just start to be cognizant of the way they use their language, what they're saying, how they're doing it. Is it good? Is it bad? Does it help you or does it not? Tons of resources out there if you're interested in it, more than I ever would have thought were possible. So, thanks everybody.